The Last Rodeo, a Western suspense thriller. The unforgiving sun beat down on the dusty town of Redstone, casting long shadows that seemed to writhe and twist like writhing snakes. The sound of wind howled through the empty streets, and the only living being in sight was a solitary tumbleweed rolling down the main street. The town had been deserted for years, ever since the day of the infamous gunfight, the Last Rodeo. The legend of the Last Rodeo. The story of Redstone's showdown was legendary. It was said that two of the West's most notorious gunslingers, Jack the Rattlesnake Ramirez and Tom the Duster Dawson, had met in the town's dusty square to settle an age-old score. The duel had been a sight to behold. The air had crackled with anticipation as the two men faced off, each knowing that only one would walk away alive. Their guns roared like thunder, and the echoes of their shots reverberated through the canyons. The ground shook beneath their boots as they stood their ground. It was a battle of wills, of skill, and raw, undiluted testosterone. They fired round after round, each trying to gain the upper hand, but neither would yield. In the end, it was Jack Ramirez who emerged victorious, his gun barrel still smoldering from the intense duel. Tom Dawson lay lifeless on the ground, his eyes frozen open in a sight of pure horror and desperation. The townspeople watched in silent awe as Jack walked away, his reputation sealed in legend. The haunting of Redstone. But the legend of the Last Rodeo did not end with the final shot. It seemed that the spirits of the town's past were not ready to let go. For years, the tale of the gunfight haunted the town of Redstone, drawing in thrill-seekers and cowards who hoped to catch a glimpse of the ghost stalking the streets. Charlie's encounter. It was on a sweltering summer day that the town's only remaining inhabitant, an elderly gunsmith named Charlie, decided to explore the abandoned saloon on the edge of town. Charlie was a man who had lived through the Wild West, and he knew better than to underestimate the supernatural. As Charlie cautiously stepped through the doors of the abandoned saloon, the air seemed to grow colder, and the silence was more oppressive than ever. The dust that coated every surface seemed to shimmer as if it were alive. Charlie gripped his shotgun tight, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. He made his way cautiously towards the bar, where he could feel the presence of something malevolent. The air was thick with the scent of blood and gunpowder, and the feeling of impending doom was palpable. Just as he was about to turn and run, he heard a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down his spine. Turning slowly, Charlie saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was a man, but he had been twisted and distorted by some unseen force. His skin was grey and mottled, and his eyes burned like embers. The figure wore a tattered, stained cowboy hat and a dirty, blood-soaked duster. It was Tom Dawson, the duster, who came back from the grave to exact his revenge. The supernatural showdown. With a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the saloon, Dawson charged towards Charlie, his hands reaching for the ghostly guns that hung low on his hips. Charlie fired his shotgun, the blast echoing through the abandoned building, but the bullets passed through Dawson like smoke through a window. The two men clashed in a whirlwind of fury, their punches and kicks landing with the force of a freight train. Charlie fought with all his might, but Dawson's supernatural strength seemed to grow with each passing moment. The room spun around them, a blur of dust and blood and gunsmoke. As the fight reached its climax, Charlie found himself flung across the room, his breath knocked out of him. He looked up to see Dawson standing over him, a sinister grin twisted across his face. With a swift kick, Dawson sent Charlie crashing into the bar, knocking him unconscious. As Charlie lay on the floor, his eyes fluttered open to see Dawson's ghostly figure standing above him. The duster reached down, his hand closing around Charlie's throat. A twist of fate. Just as Dawson was about to deliver the final blow, a voice echoed through the saloon, "Leave him be, Duster." The figure of Jack Ramirez, the Rattlesnake, materialized from thin air, his steely gaze fixed on Dawson. "Your fight is with me," Jack said, his voice low and menacing. Dawson released Charlie and turned to face his old rival. "Ramirez," he growled, "you always were a thorn in my side." The two ghostly gunslingers faced off once more, their spectral guns drawn. The air crackled with tension as they circled each other, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Charlie watched in awe as the two legends clashed, their movements a blur of ghostly energy. The saloon shook with the force of their spectral bullets, and the air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and ozone. The fight raged on, neither gunslinger giving an inch. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that Jack was the stronger of the two. He landed blow after blow, driving Dawson back towards the bar. With a final, desperate lunge, Dawson tried to overpower Jack, but the Rattlesnake was too quick. He sidestepped Dawson's attack and delivered a powerful punch to the Duster's jaw, sending him crashing through the bar and into the wall behind it. Dawson's ghostly form flickered and faded, his vengeful energy finally dissipating. As his image vanished, a sense of peace settled over the saloon. Jack turned to Charlie, who was still struggling to his feet. "You are all right, old-timer?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Charlie nodded, his voice hoarse. "Thanks to you, Rattlesnake," he said. "I owe you my life." Jack simply nodded and vanished into thin air, leaving Charlie alone in the silent saloon.